In this Arc Raiders video, we're going to be discussing some of the key things you need to know about in-game settings, navigating the map, and also just some simple combat tips to help give you the advantage at launch. All right, so starting with controls first, basically I made a few keybind changes that have helped me significantly with movement and also just overall less clunkiness when I'm playing the game. So one of the first things I did was I actually moved the dodge roll to my mouse button. So instead of it being Alt or whatever the hell it is, it's actually on my mouse, which makes it much easier to dodge enemies, arc, whatever I'm trying to do. Also, I ended up making the sprint option. I made it toggle instead of hold. In games like this, I just want to sprint. I don't have to worry about holding it down and all that nonsense. So that's actually helped me out quite a bit. Also with pinging, I believe pinging was middle mouse button. I moved that to T. That feels more natural with my left hand movements. It just feels easier to do whenever I'm actually trying to ping enemies and things like that on the move and things. Also for reload, I actually remapped this to a mouse button as well. I have two mouse buttons on my mouse and it's the front mouse button. I'm used to it from other games and it's actually made things quite easier for me. For me, shoulder swap felt best on the middle mouse button. It just feels natural when I'm shooting with the right hand, so that ended up being the best spot for it. To go unarmed, meaning you put your weapons away and just run faster, I've moved it from H to G. Basically, I swapped the emo button and the unarmed button. I want to be able to use that more often than emotes. I could care less about emotes, so G felt like a more natural position. For swapping weapons, for weapon 1, I made that scroll up on the mouse and I ended up making weapon 2 scroll down. Much more natural feeling than trying to press 1 or 2 or whatever on the left hand. Just scroll up, scroll down to be able to switch between weapons. For sensitivity, this is going to be all up to you and what you like. For me personally, the default option was way too out of control, so I ended up dropping this to 15 and 15 on horizontal and vertical recoil. Feels very, very nice for being able to lock on those targets much easier. I left both the zoom and the scoped multiplier at 100%. Again, it's something you got to tinker with for your playstyle and everything like that, but personally, these mouse settings actually felt the best for me. In accessibility, you're going to have quite a few different options to change your crosshairs, and one thing that I liked is changing the crosshair to the circle. So how you do that is you come down to crosshair, and you can actually change this from off, which is the default, to on, and then you can change it from a variety of different things. Personally, I like the circle. I feel like that was the best option. You can also put a dot in the middle of this to also give you some extra visibility right there for the center of your screen, and you can change the thickness of this to whatever you want as well. That's actually quite good. And then you can also change the color to green if you like, or red or blue, or whatever you feel like works best for you and feels natural. So just come in here, customize your crosshair a little bit, because it does make a great difference when you are in combat, because you're mainly going to be in third-person perspective. The graphics are going to be completely dependent on your system, whether you run 1440p, whether you run 1080p. I'm personally running at 4K, and my system has a 4080 and a 7800X 3D. So I'm just going to go over my settings, and you can kind of work from there. So I am running NVIDIA DLSS. I think it's pretty standard in most games to run it. I'm running the quality version. Again, you can run it if you want, but you're just going to be sacrificing frames. And you can actually lower these settings if you want to as well. But I wanted the best visual fidelity, and I don't really feel like that it's affecting performance and just screen tearing and things that much. So I'm running this personally. It works good for my system. I'm off and on between frame generation. It feels a bit too much. I am noticing a 10 to 20 frame increase at 4K, which is nice when I have it on. When I have it off, I do lose a little bit, but it doesn't feel too bad, which is nice. And then again, my frame rate reset for some reason, but I did have it at 145 to lock it in, so that way, because my monitor is 144, so that's going to give you a big help there. For other settings, I would definitely crank up field of view if you would like. It just depends on how you like it, but I like it maxed out in this particular game. Motion blur, I disabled that because I can't stand motion blur in games. Ray tracing is something I have on, but you can turn that off to get some actual better performance. It's about like a 10-ish frames increase, maybe more. It just depends. Again, I don't have exact metrics and things like that. You're just gonna see some stuff on screen. And then for quality, I left everything at high. It just seems like the best place for me personally, running at 4K. And again, it's just completely up to your PC. Just play around with some settings. You can see some changes on screen like I mentioned before, but really, if you're running an NVIDIA graphics card especially, and you can run FSR on an AMD card as well, just give it a shot, but run some of the upscaling options because they're actually not too bad in this game. All right, so we're in game now. I'm gonna go over some general things you can do while you're in a raid, such as crafting and things like that. So any of these items that you get, were a free kit, for example, you can salvage or break down into other components. So if you want to break this down to fabric, you can. If you want to break this down to chemicals, you can. Sometimes that can be quite useful because if you have the perk that's in the survival tree called in-raid crafting or something like that, you can craft different things such as shield rechargers, bandages, or adrenaline shots, or anything like that. So this is going to be very nice to be able to have. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to get some other ones here, but even if it's just this is nice to be able to have in a pinch, to be able to craft a quick shield recharger, because all you have to do is get an arc power cell and some rubber parts, and you have a shield recharger for the rest of the raid, or to be able to use right then if you need it. You have the ability to see your total value for your kit while you're in raid or in Speranza. So when you're in raid, you can actually see it right here next to your encumbrance number. So basically this is a $3,000 kit based off what this number says. As I gather things and whatnot, that number will go up. So taking a look at the map, so there's a lot of information you can learn from the map. So obviously these little down arrows are all the spawns. Some of them are going to be raider hatch spawns, and then some of them are going to be regular spawns. Each spawn has a time limit. Some are for the full duration of the raid, like this central swamp lift, and then some are for just very short times during the raid. So you need to keep in mind that if you head to this area, the timer may have already run out or be close, so you may not be able to extract from it. So one thing to keep in mind as well is you do need a key for the raider hatch exits, and these are timed. It's very fast. I've seen 2 or 3 people go in, but you got to be quick. So when you use it, you got to jump in. If it gets used, you can actually use it again if somebody else gets locked out or something like that. A couple other things to keep in mind here is that the highlighted boxes here, the red and yellow boxes, are going to be loot value areas. The yellow is going to be medium loot value, and then in there is going to be icons. So if you're looking for industrial or mechanical parts, such as wires or anything of that nature, they're going to be here. You find them pretty plentifully. If you want more things that are agricultural, industrial, and security, you can go to the hydroponics dome complex. And then if you want some other things like tech stuff, you can go to the research complex, which is a high loot area. So when you're traversing the map, you'll have to decide where you want to go with your team. On this particular map as well, you can't see it right now, but the queen is down here if it is on the map, if it's a harvest time and whatnot. So if you're wanting to avoid the queen, or if you want to do the puzzle activity, it's all going to be right here in this area that I'm highlighting on screen. Some things to understand about spawning into a raid. So you're going to see here at the top of the screen, there is a number. I just spawned into this raid and I'm already 19 minutes in. So every raid is going to have 30-minute timer. So that means I'm late into the raid. That means that all these people have already spawned and are moved around the map in various locations. So I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage just because I don't know where anybody is. Now, if I were to come in at the exact 30-minute marker, I can be guaranteed that somebody spawned here by the control tower, right here in the testing annex area, right here, and right here. So I kind of know where everybody is, so I can maybe set up some ambushes and things like that. So that's one thing you need to be very quick to understand, is that depending on when you come into the raid, somebody could be right next to you if you are early. However, if you're late, you're kind of going in the dark. You're just gonna have to figure it out as you go. Now, if you are at the beginning of the raid, let's just say you come in at 29.5 seconds, people can still spawn behind you. If you leave this zone and it's an open spawn point, people can spawn there. So there have been plenty of times where somebody walks forward a little bit and then they get shot in the back because somebody spawns in right behind them. Maybe they have a late spawn or something like that. So overall, there's some things that they got to work out, but that's how the spawn system works in a nutshell. And you need to kind of keep your head on a swivel depending on when you come into the game. So for the quick slot items, you're going to be able to press Q. I left that by default. So if you want to access this normally, you can. You just rotate around it with your mouse. If you're doing that on controller, it's going to be something similar with your analog stick or something like that. You can just press it to quickly swap between your various things as well. But if you want to select the right thing right away, you're going to be able to just go here and click it right away instead of having to press just Q and spam it. But that is an option in a quick hint situation where you're just going to quickly switch to something. Just one little tip for you is I always usually have a grenade in my initial quick thing. So if I get into a gunfight, I don't have to fumble around trying to find a grenade. I could just throw it to be able to distract them or whatever I need to do. That's typically what I do because I can quickly switch to a heal based off what I'm currently dealing with. Let's talk about fighting the Ark, because this is not as easy as it was in the original playtest that we played back in the summer. They've ramped up the difficulty of the Ark, made it more tanky, and they just in general like see you from a mile away. So some key things to keep in mind with the Ark. So your weapons are going to tell you when they are strong against the Ark. So for example, these heavy weapons are going to be strong against the Ark, as it indicates right there, against Ark armor penetration. So you can actually do some really good damage to them, whereas a light weapon is going to be very weak. Now, if you team shot with the light weapon, meaning you have other teammates shoot it with you, it can take them out decently well. But really, in reality, the best way to deal with Ark is going to be with heavy weapons and then medium weapons in a pinch. So really, the meta way to run your loadout in any particular raid, whether you're solo or in some sort of group play, you should run a heavy weapon and a light or medium weapon as well, because the heavy weapon is going to help you deal damage to the Ark and take them out very quickly, as well as the light to medium weapon is going to be able to help you with the players and finish off things when you need to and be your workhorse overall. So that's going to be really the combination that works the best. Now, every Ark has specific weak spots. If there's some sort of flying one, you can take out that little rotating propeller blades and stuff like that, or their engines, and they will fall out of the sky and be very easy to kill. The little rolly guys are typically easier to kill with some sort of melee weapons. And then just a lot of the other arcs have exposed weak spots, the tankier ones, after you deal some damage to them and you can disable their legs. But that's one of the best ways to be able to take care of the arcs. Is there's some specific grenades in the game that are very strong against arc, and there's also some heavy weapons that deal really good damage, such as the anvil, the pharaoh, and things like that. So again, there are a number of different ways you can deal with them, but one of the best ways to deal with them is just to avoid them whenever you can. It doesn't make sense to fight arc unless you have some sort of quest or you just need the resources for some reason. But really, you should fight them only when you need to, because all they do is just give away your position, which is kind of annoying when you're trying to avoid players. For fighting the players, there's a lot more variables at play because everybody's running different types of kit, from different shields to different types of weapons and things like that. So encounter to encounter is going to be very different. You have some cues that you can see basically off some players if you are paying attention, such as there are some antennas on the player to be able to indicate how many shields they have on. If there's 2 or more, that's going to mean they have medium or heavy. If they have only 1 antenna on their little back, it's going to mean they only have light. So that means you don't need to do as much, maybe 1 heavy shot or something like that, take out their shields. Now, for weapons, you can just see the weapons they're using. You can get used to the sound effects and stuff like that as well. To be able to identify what weapons they're using so you know how to engage them. That's also something that's going to help you very much so through experience and time. So when you're fighting a player, to tell when their shield is being damaged, you'll just see sparks coming off of it, and you can typically tell what type of shield they're running if you don't necessarily get a visual cue, just based off how many shots they take from a heavy weapon or a light weapon or a medium weapon. Now, when you're damaging a player, you're also technically damaging their health depending on their shield quality as well as your overall weapon that you're using. If you're using heavier weapons, typically you're going to be both damaging their shield and their health pool. Now, I've had a lot of incidents where I've fully maxed out my shield and I'm still damaged to my health, and I die even with the full shield just because the weapon overpinned and actually did a lot of damage to my health. So that's just, again, a little thing you're going to learn as you're getting more used to the game. So when a shield pops or just gets destroyed, you'll be able to hear an audible sound that's quite loud, and it's going to have a lot of visual flair. That's going to give you a good indication of to push or to re-coordinate with your team to be able to take this person out. Now, when a raider fully dies, there's going to be a spark or a flare that comes up to be able to hit the ceiling if they're in a room, or go straight in the sky and indicate that a player has gone down. So in a lot of situations like this, players push that as soon as they see that go down because they're trying to third party and take you out because you're in the middle of a fight. So you just got to be careful, because those moments mean you need to have your head in a swivel, loot fast, and just get the hell out of there if you want to just get out with the loot that they have. So again, just little tips there to be able to get the advantage when you're fighting other players. Now, when the red flare goes off, that does not mean a player is dead. It means they're knocked down. They have 2 options. Either they can crawl away to a teammate, or they can surrender. And the best thing to do is to either go up and punch them, shoot them, and take them out, or just go up and try and revive them if you want to create a friendly situation. That's completely up to you if you have a defibrillator, but you can use a defibrillator to bring another player back up to life if you'd like. If you want to make friends with them, completely up to you, but it is an option as well. Again, very similar to the arc, the heavy ammo is going to be great at being able to take out the shields fast. So you're going to use a heavy weapon like the anvil or the pharaoh, for example, to be able to take out shields, and you can use something like a medium or a light pen weapon to be able to finish them off. Now, medium and light pen weapons can work pretty well against the players, even with their shields active. However, the meta right now, or the best way to play it, is to maybe shoot them with a pharaoh shot early game, and then use something like the Stitcher or some sort of light pen weapon to be able to finish them off. That's one of the best ways I found to use this particular loadout when I'm facing players. One little thing that I see a lot of people forgetting constantly is to use grenades. Grenades are going to be great for being able to either flush people out of cover or just finish them off. There's been so many times where I've just tossed a grenade and they just didn't expect it and they got blown up. Now, some of the grenades have very small radiuses and they're not really worth using, but if you get grenades with much larger radiuses, shrapnel grenades or the high explosive grenades, whatever they're called, they're going to be great for being able to flush players out or just deal some good damage to their shields and things like that. Some final general tips for combat as a whole: sliding and dodge movements are going to be huge for mitigating damage. This is going to help you dodge arc shots if they're just chasing you and following you around. And also it will help distract the players or just make them miss their shots a little bit more if you're bobbing and weaving and just dodging and doing all sorts of things. You can pop adrenaline stims in a pinch. Basically, these are going to recover your stamina and give you some version of unlimited stamina for a minute to help you get out of messy situations. So those are quite nice to bring quite from time to time. I would say once you feel comfortable, make sure you're bringing a lot of healing items. Bandages aren't very expensive. The shield rechargers, once you get a good bit of them, just bring 5, because there's just so many situations where you'll fight more arc than you think, you'll fight way more players than you think in team play, and just having a lot of heals is just very nice, so you don't have to worry about trying to scavenge some from players or just build some in game in intense moments. So I would just overbring heals in a game like this, just because it's going to make it much easier to deal with whatever situation you're going to be against. One tip that I always do when I'm actually healing in this game is I typically heal with a bandage or something first, then I will use a shield recharger to recover my shield. This is because the healing thing is going to be healing me over time, and then the shield's going to also be recovering. And again, like I mentioned, you can still die if you have full shields and more limited health, just because your shield is only going to take so much damage from your actual being shot. The heavier the rounds, the more damage you're going to take to your direct health. So it's better off to have your health as high as possible and your shield a little bit lower if necessary. I would use the arc to your advantage. They give you tons of information if you're patient and don't just rush into every situation. You can just watch the arcs fly around, and if they turn yellow or red, that means a player is right there. You know where they're at, you got the information, so you can either third party or maybe you can kill them after they've taken out the drone or something, but you have plenty of information at that point to make your decision of how you're going to push that encounter. Also, again, if players are in fights with bots, this is a good time for you to take out the player, because I mean, they're distracted, not facing you. Shoot them in the back or wherever you had to hit them, because that's a good time to take them out as well. So when an arc bot goes down, a lot of them will drop things called arc power cells. These power cells are not just for building shield rechargers, they can recharge your shield in raid. So if you don't have the ability to craft rechargers, or if you just don't want to, you can just pop these and they will recharge your shield. Super nice quality of life thing. Also, a lot of the arc will drop some sort of arc things that can be used as grenades. Just pay attention to what the arc things do outside of just breaking them down or just crafting things, because they could be quite useful in raid for just helping you get out of tricky situations when you normally wouldn't get out of them. You need to make an executive decision as a team or when you're solo to be able to engage combat or avoid it. You have clear indications a lot of times on the map where players are, and if you learn the maps and actually get map knowledge, you'll be able to identify where they are based off loot routes. And they're pretty easy to avoid if you try. You'll have those unlucky moments where you just run into somebody in the middle of the woods or something like that, but most times people are going to go to those high value spots. So if you just need to quest and get out, don't be afraid to. There's no shame in it. The name of the game is progressing your character, gaining levels, completing quests, things like that. So you need to make a conscious decision every time you're going into a raid, whether you're going to fight or whether you're going to quest. And you can do both at times if you're feeling frisky, but a lot of times it's just better just to get in and out quickly. One general tip for extraction shooters as a whole, and in this game particularly is going to be very important, is don't be scared to run your higher levels of gear. All you're doing is selling yourself short, because you could have actually survived that situation if you would have had a more powerful weapon or some sort of powerful shield, and you're letting your team down if you're not bringing your best foot forward. Now, you just need to make a conscious decision as a team, or whether you're going in solo, whether you're going to go in a heavy gear run, meaning that you're going in with maximum gear or much heavier gear, and you're going to go chase fights and things like that, or you're just going to defend yourself a little bit better against the arc and things like that, or if you're going to go in there with a free loadout. But the big thing is that you want to be on the same page about what you're doing when you're going in, and don't be scared to use gear. Obviously, when you're early on, maybe just save it a little bit, but really, it's not going to do much for you in your stash. Run the things that are going to give you the best advantage against other players, especially early on, because all you're going to be doing is just reaping the rewards of running better things, because you're going to survive more often, you're going to kill people more often, you're going to take out arc easier. In general, the more you just run things and just get comfortable, the better you're going to feel, because you're actually going to survive a lot of situations. And eventually you're just going to have plenty of things to craft and buy anyway. The biggest tip I have for you outside of everything I've talked about in this video is going to be, don't be scared of failure. It's a pretty cheesy, corny thing to say, but in the games like this, extractive shooters, you're going to be dying a lot. You're going to be dying a lot. You're going to have a lot of missteps. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. You're going to not know about that flank. You're going to maybe not play that team as well as you should. You're going to miss your shots, get frustrated, get annoyed for a moment, but learn from it, understand what you could have did better there. Maybe it was just unlucky, and that's a big part of it as well, is just luck. But in reality, as long as you're learning and you're trying to get better every single time, you will. And just, again, run better gear and you'll probably survive a lot more than you think in a lot of situations. But anyways, guys, that's all I got for you for in-game tips for the game in terms of settings, just general combat tips and things like that. Let me know what you guys think about this video down in the comments below. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content similar to this. But anyways, I'll catch you in the next video.